Hey guys, it's Jenny. Welcome back once again to Solid Gold. As you can see behind me, there's been a lot of changes out here in the fish room and it's time for an update. So let's get started. Does this whole area look a little bit different to you? Because it really should. There's a lot of new different things going on out here. So let's start by the door. Let's start from the beginning here. So I got Countertops finally and installed the sink. It's an actual functioning sink now. Check it out. Check it out. I got these Countertops from IKEA, believe it or not, and they were a pretty good price. I had a little bit of leftover, so I made an extra little shelf down there for extra storage. So yay, working sink, nice countertop. And also the plumbing under the sink is all completed. We've got a drain going back there. I have no more contractor helping me. The bulk of the work is done and he really flaked out and kind of just left an unfinished job anyways. So I haven't even tried to get him back out here. Honestly, I don't want him back out here anyways. The rest of it is stuff that I can more or less do myself. And I've been doing this myself with the help of a very good friend. So we ended up cutting a hole through the wall back there for the drain for the sink. And we actually had to dig up the yard to run a drain line into an existing drain line that went into my septic field. So this sink drains properly into the septic field as it should, which is awesome. So cool. So that's all squared away. You guys have already seen my fridge over here, but I've started putting some of my animal food in it. I've got some food for the feeder insects, and then some waxworms and some earthworms up there. And then the freezer is already pretty full of frozen fish food. So microwave up on top, and the electrical panel is still off. There's still a couple things that have to be done with the electrical panel, a couple minor finishing touches, and then the panel cover can go back on, so that won't remain just like an open hole with scary wires all over the place. It will get finished, it's just not there yet. The cabinets are really starting to fill up with fish supplies, trying to keep everything as organized as possible. So I got some of these little organizer caddy things, which is really nice to have because everything before used to be just jumbled all together and so disorganized. So now the goal is that everything will have a place where it belongs. So when I go to find something because I need it, I'll be able to find it really easily instead of having to search for like 5 or 10 minutes to find one thing, you know how that goes. So I've got all kinds of fish food up here. I have some like kitchen-y type things out here because now that I have a sink, a fridge, and a microwave, I'll be able to actually cook my fish gel food and things like that right out here. So I have like all the things that I need for, just measuring spoons, measuring cups, for making fish food and stuff. This one is already full as well. Just all kinds of like filters, pumps, heaters up there. I got these little bins from the hardware store that actually fit perfectly 3 across. So that was awesome. This is the bulletin board that used to be in my office inside the house, but since this is the fish room and this is a fish-related mishmash of things that you guys have sent to me, drawings you've made and things like that, I thought it belonged out here, don't you think? And then I've got, of course, the Solid Gold calendar right there, which I'm currently working on the one for 2018, so keep an eye out for that. And here's my desk for out here. Really simple, cute little desk. This is the same countertop as what was used in the sink area over there, just for continuity. And then I picked up this white storage thingy from IKEA, and then the legs, and just assembled it all together, and voila. I have a weird thing about garbage cans. I don't like touching them because they're dirty, they're garbage cans, ew. So I always get the ones with like the little foot pedal, gotta have it. The first animals that I moved out to the fish room were actually the Leopard Geckos. There's their tank right there. Oh, Sylvia's out. Sorry about the lizard poop, but there's Sylvia hanging out in the corner, and you can see Lucy's tail in the cool hide there. So they were the first to move out, and then right after I moved out the dart frogs, and they are doing awesomely. There's one There's one hopping around over there, so cute. So when I dump in their fruit flies, after a few seconds, they all start hopping out towards the fruit flies, and I think it's because they can hear the rustling of the fruit flies moving around, and they start eating right away. So actually, you know what? I haven't fed them yet today, so let's feed them right now, and you guys can see what I'm talking about. Here's my little fruit fly area. This is an old culture, and these ones I just started a couple of days ago. So let's see if there's any. Yeah, there's nothing going on in these right now except for a whole bunch of adult flies. These are the adult flies that I started this culture with. So I seeded them with these flies, and I don't see any pupa hanging onto the sides of this cup. So nothing has really started developing in there yet. As you can see in this one, like all that dark, a lot of that dark stuff is clumps of, and there's some up at the top too, clumps of fruit fly pupa that are kind of stuck onto the sides there. So those then hatch out and become the adult fruit flies. And sometimes you can even see the fruit fly larvae squirming around in the bottom there too, but I don't see any right now. So these ones haven't started producing yet, so I can't take flies out of these ones, but I can take flies out of this one because it's the old one and it is still producing somewhat. So I'll take flies out of that. Here is their supplement. So I'm gonna try to do this one-handed here while I'm holding onto the camera. Don't mind my bandaged thumb either. That just happened when I was digging up the yard for the, what was it for? For the drain line for the sink, that's what it was, yes. All right, so I take these guys over here. So I tapped some of the supplement powder into this container. I just smack this down a couple of times so the flies all fall down to the bottom because they keep trying to climb up and out. So you have to smack it down so they go down to the bottom, and then tap them into the collection cup like that. Look at that. There's already a lot in there. Oh my gosh, I lost a lot that time. That's what happens when you do things one-handed. I'll pick them up later. So then you just like swirl these in here to get them nice and coated with that powder supplement. I'm gonna try to take this little piece of Excelsior out of here. That's not a big deal. Okay, so then I bring this over to the frog enclosure. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's like they know they're about to be fed. That is a little creepy, actually. You guys are too smart. Too smart. This is the spot where I dump the flies to try to keep the powder contained to one area. Because there's always some loose powder that goes in with the flies. Look at them. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. Are these not just like the most awesome animals ever? Seriously. See if I can zoom in a little, show you guys a better view. They're really fun to watch, and honestly, this never gets old for me. I've been feeding them almost every day because they're still pretty young and I'm trying to get them to grow well. So I've been feeding them almost every day. Although for adult dart frogs, you don't have to feed them every single day. But after every time that I dump the flies in, even though I've been feeding them every day so I know what to expect, what's gonna happen, what it looks like when they eat, I'm just like stuck here in front of their tank watching them for like 10 minutes at least, because it's so cool. So yeah, that's the frogs, the leopard geckos next to them. And the water heater is now fully hooked up and fully functional. So not only do I have water from the sink, I also have hot water. And then the elephant in the room, I have set up some aquariums over here. Now this is something I talked to you guys about a little bit before. These are not going to be aquariums where I'm actually going to put fish into. These are just going to be set up and running fishless cycles. So let's talk a little bit about a fishless cycle what it is, why it's important, and why I'm doing it. Any discussion about fishless cycling first needs to start by explaining what is meant by the cycle of an aquarium. So a lot of times you'll hear tossed around, oh, is the tank cycled? Can you help me cycle my tank? And you're thinking, what does that mean? Well, basically, it's talking about the nitrogen cycle. This is a process that happens in nature, and you replicate it inside of your aquarium to help keep the water safe and healthy to support your fish's life. The nitrogen cycle starts when an animal produces ammonia, and fish produce ammonia by respiring, by breathing. So the ammonia actually gets excreted through their gills when they breathe, and they also produce ammonia in their waste. Ammonia in the water is actually extremely toxic to fish, to the point where even if you have like 0.25 parts per million of ammonia in the water, it can be really, really damaging to the fish, cause really extreme stress, and sometimes even death if it goes on for long enough or builds up more. So the nitrogen cycle is what takes care of that ammonia and converts it into other things that are less and less harmful for the fish. There's a type of bacteria in the environment that eats ammonia, and when it eats the ammonia, it produces nitrite. So this is still a problem though, because nitrite is also extremely toxic to fish, even at levels as low, again, as 0.25 parts per million. So then what? Well, there's another type of bacteria, a second type of bacteria, that converts the nitrite into nitrate. And this is typically thought of as, at least for aquarium purposes, the end product of the nitrogen cycle. So the nitrate is a lot less toxic for your fish, to the point where it can build up to sometimes 80 or more parts per million in the water and not really cause any adverse effects on your fish, and it'll be just fine for them. So that's what we mean when we talk about the nitrogen cycle. Now, this room, before it got all revamped and brought up to speed and updated, and a water line brought in and all of that, I was using it as a fish room. It was just a pretty rudimentary fish room, but I did have fish in here with filters that were cycled with really good beneficial bacteria living in the filter media. However, I had to throw all of that out because my goldfish got sick with something really, really bad, and I couldn't keep those cycled filters because they were a hotbed for whatever parasites or bacteria were infecting my fish to just continue to proliferate and continue to breed and grow and infect my fish over and over and over again. So I'm starting completely fresh, completely from scratch, which is why I'm doing fishless cycles back there behind me. A fishless cycle is the alternative to what we call a fish-in cycle. I would never ever recommend anyone do a fish-in cycle. It's just not necessary, and it's actually a lot less efficient anyways than just doing a fishless cycle and then adding your fish once your filters are ready and can handle them safely. So if you choose to do a fish-in cycle, your fish are going to be exposed to potentially very, very high levels of ammonia and nitrite before the tank is finally finished cycling. And actually, a fish-in cycle can end up taking several months, because in order to keep the tank safe for your fish, you have to continue doing huge water changes while you're trying to cycle the tank, which is actually hurting the process of cycling the tank, because the bacteria won't really start to get going and build up a colony in the filter unless you let those levels get really high. So unless you let ammonia and nitrite get really high. But while you have a fish in there, you also can't do that, because then it'll kill your fish. So a fishless cycle is always the way to go. Thankfully, it's actually pretty easy if you know what to do, and it doesn't take that long either. It probably takes anywhere from 1 to 2 months depending upon your specific setup and all of that. So my setup is here behind me. I already have 3 of the tanks filled with water and the filters all set up with the biological filter media in them. I have not added my pure ammonia source to the tank yet. I'm going to show you guys doing that right now as I finish up the last tank. So let's get some water in this last tank and finish setting up that last filter, and then I'll show you guys how I'm starting the fishless cycle. We just now have to finish setting up this last filter. They come with a sponge for the bottom, and this is for mechanical filtration. Now, as you can see here, I have taken and cut this one in half lengthwise, because most of the time, and especially when you're cycling, a tank like this, you don't need a whole lot of mechanical filtration, and you actually need more biological filtration. I just put this in on the bottom, like so, and then it leaves all of that space for biological filtration, which is your ceramic media like this. Let's see if I can do this one-handed and still look somewhat graceful. There we go. I actually put something extra in this filter because I want to see if it'll make a difference. Basically, I'm kind of doing like my own little experiment or test to see if the addition of this is going to help the cycle of the tank at all. So let's talk about what this is. These little things are called filter starter balls. They supposedly contain live bacteria that's going to help jumpstart the cycle of your aquarium. Now, there are a lot of different companies that sell a lot of different products like this. A lot of them actually come in liquid form. I have used a lot of different products like this in the past, and honestly, I think that a lot of them are scams because I've never noticed any, they don't work for me at least. But when I saw these ones, I was a little curious because they're different than what I've seen before, so I kind of wanted to try them out and see if they would work. And I figured I would put them in one of these tanks, that way I can test it against another tank that is cycling at the same time and see if it does actually make a difference or not. So I'm really skeptical and doubtful it's going to make a difference, but hey, if it does make a difference, that'll be awesome. We'll find out, I guess. The idea is that these tanks behind me will take about 1 to 2 months to be fully cycled to the point where they have beneficial bacteria in them that's eating the ammonia and the nitrite, and the only thing building up anymore is nitrate. That means the cycle is finished, or it's fully cycled. As you guys know, CustomAquariums.com is the company that's going to be providing my fish room with all the tanks that are going to go in here eventually. Now, none of them are here yet, but the first 2 units are in production right now. So what that means is they're not going to be delivered for another probably 8 to 10 weeks. So unfortunately, we will have a little bit of a wait for the first 2 units. And then after that, they're going to keep delivering more and more with a wait time in between each delivery of, again, anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. So it's going to be a long time coming for this project to be fully finished. But on the other hand, that's kind of good in a way because I don't want to be overwhelmed with all of those aquarium racks showing up all at once, because they're going to show up and they're going to require a lot of assembly. The aquariums are each going to be on racks, so we're going to have this whole wall is going to be filled with aquarium racks. There's going to be 4 units on this wall. There's going to be a unit over here for the reptiles and amphibians, and then of course there's going to be a huge display tank in the middle of the room too. So it'll be nice that once the aquarium racks finally do start arriving, I will already have cycled filter media thanks to the fishless cycle that's going on now that I can just take from those filters and put into the new filters, and that will jumpstart the cycle in the new aquariums so I can start adding fish to them right away. We're looking pretty full here, so I'm going to plug in this filter and turn off the water, and then I'll start adding ammonia to these tanks to kick off the fishless cycle. I'm pretty sure I've had this bottle of ammonia for as long as I've been keeping fish, which is like 8 years. That's crazy. So I'm gonna add this to all 4 tanks to help feed the bacteria so they actually have a reason to come in the filter and colonize. I'm gonna add 1 capful in each tank. So here I go. I'm just gonna let that circulate in each tank for a few minutes, and then I'll test the ammonia level and see if we need to add more. It is now 4 parts per million. They have now started the fishless cycling process. I'm curious to know, if you guys had all these aquariums and other types of tanks coming, what would be your favorite fish, reptiles, or amphibians to keep in them? Maybe you can give me some ideas for the things that I'm still undecided on. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me around the fish room. I know it's been a bit of a long video, but I really wanted to get you up to speed on all the changes that have happened out here, and there has been quite a lot. So I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, stay gold.